Do you want to know how to calm a child with ADHD without medication? Well, I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I'm the mother of 4 previous foster parent of many treatment children, many of which had ADHD. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you what I did to help them without medication. First, I'm going to share with you my experiences working with troubled youth who had ADHD, and then I'm going to share with you some principles that you need to help them overcome some of those tendencies and be the most successful, even though they process a little bit differently. I know that children with ADHD can be different. Each one has their different things that they do. And so I know that sometimes it seems like, well, that may work for that version of ADHD, but I don't think for my child that's going to work. I can promise you that what I'm sharing with you in this video will actually work no matter if your child has ADHD or if they don't. In fact, if you have multiple children and one of them has ADHD and you're trying to help them, I highly recommend applying all of these principles to everyone in your family. Because really, in order to change one heart, one set of behaviors, usually an entire environment needs to change. And targeting one person's behavior all the time can really start to feel like a burden after a while and can make the person shut down to any of the training or helps that you're trying to give them. So let's talk about what types of things they need to know that you can tell them to prepare them to be able to not have as much of a hard time with outbursts, anger, frustration, some of the things that come with the higher anxiety level associated with ADHD. When I was a young mother, I decided that I was going to take in treatment children to do treatment foster care in my home. Almost every one of the children that I took into my home over that 4-year period of time had ADHD. Now, what this meant was that they were going to have a difficult time staying focused on things. They were going to also have a hard time sometimes with lists of things that needed to be done. They were also going to get frustrated more quickly than other people, potentially. So I needed to be ready for that and have some things in place that I could help them calm down. I took in these youth, I got to know them, and then I taught them key things that they needed for their success. We turned out to be very successful. In fact, there were so many youth that came to me and shared with me how they didn't think they could overcome some of the thought processes that they had a habit of going to in their brains. So if we can remember in our brains that we all have paths that are well worn, little ruts that we just fall into when a certain word is said, we go to that place. When a certain behavior happens from another person, we go to that place. Well, a person who has ADHD oftentimes has these ruts worn even a little deeper, because when you have higher emotion or anxiety associated with the time that you take that path, it becomes even a stronger path and your brain wants to take it more times. So if we remember that, we can help them understand that their calmness, which is another type of an emotional feeling, and their security about knowing what to do instead of taking that path will be just what they need to not have that habit anymore, to start to pull themselves away from that habit and create a new, more positive habit for themselves. There was one young woman that came to my home, and she was about 15 years old. She raged. She had a lot of outbursts and anger control issues. She was ADHD. She also had some other issues that she was working with as well. But that ADHD seemed to really fuel a lot of her anger and her oppositional defiance that she had. So we worked with her with the things that I'm going to be sharing with you in the rest of this video. And she came to me after being in my home for about 5 months or so. And she said, "Nicholeen, I just have to tell you, I feel like a different person. I don't even feel like I have to get mad anymore. In fact, I don't even worry as much. I just feel so much more calm." So what did we do to help her? Let's get to that. One of the very first things that I taught all the youth that came to my home was what self-government was. So I am known all over the world for teaching families, parents and children, how to have self-government in their relationships with each other and with other people so that they can have more happiness, joy, unity, connection, and love in their relationships. I needed to teach these foster children that were coming into my home what self-government was so that they could truly think of themselves as the person that needed to be in control of them. I told them, I can't control you. I can set up an environment that will help you decide to govern yourself, regulate yourself, try to overcome some of the habits and conquer some of the issues that you're working on, but I can't do any of it for you. What you are going to have to do is you are going to have to learn self-government. Now, self-government is different than just self-control. Self-control is like pulling back and just not showing, almost hiding behind a wall. But self-regulation is when you know what's going on inside and you make the best, healthiest decisions for yourself so that you can have the most optimal success. The definition of self-government is being able to determine the cause and effect of any given situation and possessing a knowledge of your own behaviors so that you can control them. So this means I needed to teach all of these youth cause and effect in their relationships, in their communications. I also needed to teach them that it was healthy and okay for them to examine themselves and determine when they needed to make a change and not. Now, this meant I was going to need to do regular assessment for them at first so that they could learn when and how to assess and correct themselves afterward as they prepared for adult life. So, what does self-government look like? Let's talk about some of these other principles. Before I share my next principles with you, hit that subscribe button. There is a lot of great content on this channel and new videos come out all the time related to improving your relationships, your communications, and improving unity in your home as well. An important thing that your child needs to understand is the tone of your home. What you want the tone to feel like versus what the tone is, right? They need to be able to assess what feels good and calm and what feels like it's fueling anger and contention and power struggle. It is up to us to point out the different tones or feelings that exist and label them. Oh, that feels very loving, doesn't it? Or that feels really united. We feel bonded to each other right now. Look at this good communication that we're having. Do you feel calmness? A person cannot learn self-government unless they know how to get themselves calm. We are wondering how to calm down a person with ADHD, right? Well, we have to teach them how to calm themselves. This is vital. And at the end of this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a free gift that you can have so that you can teach them calmness and yourself calmness even more than what I'm sharing here in this video right now. But to understand calmness, calmness is power. Calmness is a person who's ready to be focused in an instant to meet any crisis. You need to teach your child when you are calm, that means you've decided you can adapt, you can stop, you can take a look, you can see how do I relate to this situation or to this person. You can ask yourselves questions before you will jump into reactions. When a person is calm, they give themselves a plan for how to do that. I share that plan in my Calm Parenting Toolkit, which I'm going to teach you how to get at the end of this video. The next things that you'll teach your child are skills that they need for communication success. There are 4 basic skills that I teach in my Teaching Self-Government Parenting course. Those 4 basic skills are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. Each one of those 4 basic skills has a skill set attached to it. For instance, to accept no answers or criticism, there's a 4-step process. You look at the person, keep a calm face, voice, and body, say okay or ask to disagree appropriately, and then you drop the subject. When a person knows those 4 steps to that one skill, they can analyze what parts they did, what parts they didn't do, so that they know where to improve. So if we just expect a child to have good behavior, they don't know what that is. Good behavior is actually kind of vague. In fact, it can even be subjective. It can even be something that if that pleases me, it's good. If it doesn't please me, it's bad. Which makes it so that the person doesn't really know what good and bad even is, except for to follow what another person's emotions are. That's not solid teaching. So what I decided for my foster children and my own children, and now people have done all over the world, is that I would proactively teach them the skills that they needed for success so that they could use those skills to analyze where they've fallen short and how they can improve. So teach your children the skills that they need so that they can communicate with you and handle some of those more anxious situations that they might encounter. The next principle is consistency. So you want your child with ADHD to be able to come to a place of calmness on their own, right? Because you can't force a person to be calm. In fact, if you force a person, it eliminates trust. And to establish calmness, there has to be a feeling of trust. So it would actually ruin the calmness. You can't make a person feel so much fear that they get calm. In fact, inside, they'll always be boiling and bubbling and having problems. What you have to do is you have to establish a habit with them so that they can get to a place where they can calm themselves. So how do you do that? It requires consistency, consistent teaching. This means when they are calm, then you praise them. This also means when it seems like they're going to lose it, that you pre-teach them about what they need to do to have calmness in this communication. Maybe you remind them of the skill that they need, like how to accept consequences or how to disagree appropriately with you so that they don't jump to that emotional place. So this type of teaching is vital. If we consistently pre-teach, praise, and correct when things don't go right, then our child sees cause and effect, and they get the opportunity to see, I did something that needs to be corrected, and that's okay. If the tone is calmness from you, it feels safe to them. Then they are able to calmly assess what's going on and fix things for the future. Now, I've got a little bit of a warning here for you. If you have a child with ADHD, they have a really well-worn path in their brain. It's going to take time. There is no magic pill for a person with ADHD. If you give them medication, it can shut down some of their activity in their brain, but in the end, they didn't learn anything from it. All of the youth that came to my home came on medication for their ADHD. But by the time they were done, almost every one of them left not needing any medication. Because they learned the skills for success, they learned to examine themselves, and they learned how to correct their own behavior. It was empowering for them, and they knew they didn't need to be on a certain drug for their whole life. Now that said, there were one or two that did have to keep some of their medications just because their chemical levels on many different issues that they were dealing with were kind of off. So it's not a bad thing per se if a person's on medication, but I wanted them to know they could live a regular life without it if they needed to. And I was willing to take on everything with them and not have that medication be their crutch. So instead they would have skills that they could rely on, and they would have habits that they had formed. When you correct your children, you want to make sure that you do so the same every single time. A child who has ADHD has usually higher levels of anxiety. That means if you change it up, if they earn different negative consequences every single time that they do something, then they're going to feel like it's just a manipulation, it's just a power struggle. That will take them to the rut of their brain that's about anger and power struggling and anxiety. So what you need to do if you want your child to have the most success with the corrections is make sure the words are the same. There's a 7-step process that I teach in my Teaching Self-Government Parenting course that you can use that will help your child know that every single word that you will say every time. This increases the predictability, decreases the anxiety, which means more success. Working with children with ADHD and helping them get to a place of calmness is absolutely possible. But I would like to give you a free gift that is going to give you even more help with your calmness. In fact, it will give you some of the words that you need to have success. It is my Calm Parenting Toolkit. In order to get this toolkit for free, go to the description below this video. And there is a link that says Calm Toolkit or Calm Parenting Toolkit. It's one of the first links toward the top of that description. Click that link to the Calm Parenting Toolkit and go and get it completely for free. It is a course. It's a mini course that you can have and go through quickly, and it should transform yourself and your child and give you more fuel to be able to bring yourselves and your family to calmness. Click on that link now. I will see you there.